My connection did drop, so I'm now recording. Yeah, the internet's just gone. So darn. All right. So this will be split up. I'll post it just so you have the video as well. But okay, back to kind of the scope of the course. Like I said earlier, we'll have some lectures, with me talking here and with my cool little glove so I can write on the screen and all that. But sometimes we'll just be participating, talking, discussing. And if you're liking that, I will try to include more of that. So please give me feedback. Please let me know if I'd really like to spend some time, talking about our research ideas, research papers, or whatever. We could do half a class on here's how to manage your EndNote library, to format your references. Happy to do some of that. Talked about the research paper. We'll do that in stages. We'll give each other feedback. Okay. All right. For the group projects, there's a couple of particular situations in Nicaragua that I'm going to aim to connect you with. First is an electrolyzer that has just been installed. I should have added some photos, so I'm going to get those for you next time. I actually I was on sabbatical in France, and a couple of the professors that I work with there have joined me to Nicaragua before. So in 2024, one of them came. Last year, 2 guys came with me. This year, one of them had secured a donation of an electrolyzer that produces chlorine from the chloride in water. Donation from a company that he partners with. So we brought that down there and installed it in June. So one task is to see, okay, how well is it working? Got a couple things we have to replace. It has a static flow mixer that we kind of made by hand, so we're going to install a proper one. The pH probe, we didn't have the right fitting, so we're going to hopefully bring one of those. So we have some hands-on things to do. And we also have some bigger questions to ask about, can this electrolyzer system, which this is a lot like the swimming pools that generate their own chlorine, if you have a saltwater swimming pool, but it's tuned and designed for lower chloride levels. So it's adding just a little bit of sodium chloride, just enough to allow the system to make chlorine from the electricity. The bigger question is, can we use that as a sustainable treatment for situations where you have groundwater that already has some chloride in it, already has enough to do it. So you don't even have to add the chloride. Because if we can do that, and the question becomes, is that cost effective? It takes energy. You have to replace the electrodes every 5 to 7 years, something like that. Can that be cost competitive with just what they had conventionally been doing, was adding chlorine, basically adding bleach and pumping that into their treatment system? Sometimes that would run out, so you have an issue of sometimes there's no chlorination. So there's a few questions there we can ask and hopefully answer, but that's probably a good task for a project, because we kind of need to know how much energy is this system using, how would that look, what would it look like given different constraints, different situations, flow rates, how do the costs compare? So that's one item that I'd really like, in a way, I'd like help with it, right? Because I'd love to provide amigos with more information about how is this system performing? Is it cost effective? What is the longer term look? How would that go? There's another issue. Recently, there's a guy down there, Brian Peters, that I work closely with. He's kind of their water. They have a little lab down there now, and he runs that. He told me they had cyanide contamination from an illicit gold mine nearby, contaminating some of their well water. And the question was, is there anything they can do about that? So that's another another topic, and we can talk more about it, but that's a difficult one. Cyanide itself is pretty vulnerable to chlorine, but it complexes with some metals, and then it's not so easy. And so what are the technologies can we do? And this is a great example of the type of thing we face in this course and in this context, because, okay, yeah, we could do like advanced oxidation, or we could do like, I don't know, maybe coagulation and precipitation, but can anybody be trained to do the sedimentation and to clean out the system routinely? There's some big challenges there. Is that something that a community can sustain? Is that more worth it to try to do that than to drill a new well at some cost, right? That's further away from the contamination. So, some questions there. Some previous examples of projects that we worked on was aiming to predict groundwater quality from limited data. Ion exchange systems, can those be practical if you have mineral-rich groundwater? And alternates to septic tank treatment. We'll talk more about it, but they often use septic tanks, but some soil doesn't take it. Like Louisiana, for example, many places you have to have an aerated system and discharge to the surface. And that's not so practical there. So what do you do if the soil doesn't take the water, or if there's a high water table and it's flood prone? How do you do sanitation when normally you were doing septic systems? So some of those maybe we could re-up and kind of give a second look at. And I may add to this, so we're going to get more details as we go. Like I said earlier, I wasn't quite sure if we were having the project, if we were having the class. So I've done preparation in the sense that I applied for the study abroad and all the approvals way back in like February. And I was just in Nicaragua a month and a half ago, but also feel a little unprepared. So we'll sort that out. We'll have a clear presentation plan or a project plan soon. Okay, I'm going to talk more about the trip and get more of your feedback in a moment. The last kind of broad topic that I want to just mention, I already have mentioned, but is philanthropic efforts or interventions. We can call it different things. There's a lot of room for good and for help, and there's a lot of room for corruption. Right? If you give a country a bunch of money, say, hey, feed your people better, give them water, we want to help, where does the money go? Who touches it? Who's taking some as the marketing person that's fundraising for more money, right? To what extent is that okay that you might have a philanthropic group that is trying to fundraise, spends a lot of money on a good team, highly effective, that does a bunch of fundraising, right? What portion of the money that is raised to go help is actually going to go help? Right? There's some questions there. There's some questions about, is the money getting to real meaningful projects? Are you going to simply install a well and then leave, and then when it breaks, it's just a hole in the ground with some concrete in it? Is that all? How do you know what you're doing is not going to harm by making making something less sustainable than they already had it? Because if you drill a well and it works for 2 years, and people start using that and then abandon what they had before, and that could be a problem. There's plenty of ways where it could be not so good. Okay, for the study abroad, can I get a show of hands who's planning or aiming to go? Awesome. Okay. For those that aren't, are you interested in thinking about it, or just not going to go, and you know that, or how's the situation? Okay, so maybe not an option, practically speaking. Okay, so I'll give you the information. Um, so throughout the course, as we prepare, normally what I'll do is at the end of class, maybe reserve 10 or 15 minutes. Say anybody that's not going is welcome to stay or welcome to leave, and just take care of a few logistics. And then whoever is going, maybe we'll deal with. We might meet separately, but the big important thing this week is I need a list of who's going. And I need documentation because the Nicaraguan government has become pretty obstinate. They're putting a lot of restrictions on the NGOs that are helping. They have declared that no more than 15 participants can go to any NGO at one time. Amigos for Christ used to be able to take up to 100 people. Their facility, they have a really nice compound with like kind of dorm style stuff, a big kitchen and entire walled complex to host people that just want to come and help. So they have this business model in place, plenty of capacity, but right now they're limited to 15. So we have to sign up with them, but before even we have to do that, we must give them some information, the flights and passport information. So if you're on the fence, we have this week to figure that out. If you don't have a passport, but you're planning to come, we need to talk ASAP, and we'll see. We'll see if we can manage that. I hope you've applied by now, if not. The costs, you can see, looks like the internet is now working again. You can go here for the program. We do technically need to apply here. This is not so urgent. I've been able to keep the program fee quite cheap. You've already paid for tuition for the semester for being in the class, right? So that's not adding to this. This is essentially the cost of the housing that's down there, a little bit to the study abroad program just to make sure we have a small umbrella coverage. I have some funds that I'm paying my own travel costs for, so this is basically just you need to buy your plane ticket, you need to bring $10 cash for a tourist visa, just what the government does. Take $10 from you at the thing, and then the lodging and a lot of the meals are provided, and that's about $350, I think, for the program. So that comes down to be as cheap as I can make it for you, essentially. The flights are usually between 600 to 1,000, so somewhere around 800 typically. I'll show you the flights that I'm planning to buy. I will buy them tomorrow. So that's kind of what you can expect. It's 1 week. Normally, I bring a little bit of extra for some souvenirs, maybe get a meal out or something. It doesn't require a whole lot. Nicaragua is not a particularly expensive place to live or eat, but maybe you want some souvenirs. And the airport, of course, is going to be expensive. If you want more information about the organization that we're partnering with, that's here, amigosforchrist.org. I'll come prepared with some more photos next time. Actually, I probably have some from a recent trip, but so that's kind of the logistics in terms of what to expect cost-wise. I expect they will. So just a couple more notes on what to expect if you go. We fly into Managua. Let's see. Here we go. Managua is, find my cursor, is here. And so we'll fly basically from Houston is the option there. So we have to go from either Baton Rouge or New Orleans to Houston, from Houston to Managua, and then we take a bus from there up to Chinandega, which you see the highlight there. And that's about a 3-hour-ish bus ride, travel through the city of Managua and then up. In October, it is the rainy season. A lot of times when I've been, it's been like spring break sort of time, which is like the hottest, driest time. But October, it'll be moderately hot, probably a little cooler than it is like I mean, it rained last night or yesterday, so last night it was a little cooler. Maybe it feels something like that. It'll cool off a bit at night, and the sun rises and sets very quickly when it does, and so you kind of have a quick 12-hour day-ish and night. So it's a little more bounded that way. There's no hot water, but you don't really need it. There's air conditioning is hard to come by, but in the rainy season, it's not so bad. And you manage. There's lots of fans, so it's a slightly rough living. And the typical lunch is we might pack up some PBJs and just take them to the field. We can make alternate arrangements if there's needs for that. But generally, you kind of have to be willing to do some glamping. Almost camping, almost roughing it. Some parts will be rough, and we'll probably do a couple of adventures that might be might require some ability to endure the heat, which I think most of you probably can, and living around here. So the typical itinerary would look something like this. On the first Saturday, we would travel. This 24th is a Saturday. So Saturday to Saturday is the plan. We travel there. Takes kind of the whole day to get there. Be there by the evening, settle in at the compound. Sunday would be a team building. Usually we climb a volcano. There's a volcano called Cerro Negro. I've got a few pictures from it. It means Black Hill, Spanish. Somewhere kind of over there, maybe like that. So it's like an hour or less ride over there. A fun hike. It's real fun if you take the challenging way, go up the front of it. And then it's kind of like moonwalking to go back down because you're just like half falling, half like. I've got a couple of photos, but it's a lot of fun. So it's good team building. Sometimes they've taken us to other places, so I don't know what exactly to expect, but I've been there many times and have always enjoyed that. And then we have the week to do some combination of field work or working on the system that's at the compound itself. Do some water sampling. A lot of times we can help to say, okay, what does the water quality look like here? Somebody's been wanting to know, is the well still good? How bad is this water if my cows are drinking it? That's a question that somebody asked, right? So how dirty is this water? That'll give us a chance to practically see, okay, these instruments that we like to play with in the lab, what can we use them for? How can we use these skills that you've been developing to actually help? Usually sometime in the middle of the week, we'll have at least half a day to rest. Kind of depends on a little bit on what all are we doing, what are the, I guess, difficult or challenging things we've been up to. Sometimes I've been there and we take so many water samples that we're just working every evening to try to process them. And by the middle of the week, we kind of need a little downtime, right? The typical group that is not the water researcher kind of groups, they'll be digging trenches or building bathrooms or something like that. So we might participate in a bit of that. Usually I hope to at least a bit. We could do a lot of that if the group is interested in that. It's a practical way to help too and be involved with it. My aim is for us to be helpful and to also get something out of being helpful, right? Because it's meaningful for us. And so I'd like to, last time I brought a group of students from LSU, we spent one day working at a sustainable farm, and we picked turmeric, and then we're processing it. Okay. We also grabbed some water samples and analyzed them while we were there, but a lot of the day that's what the group was doing on the Thursday. And so we participated to see what does it take to do organic farming. Okay? It's not exactly what we're doing on the course, but it's something that is definitely in line with the development. Okay, Friday, we'd probably try to have some other excursion, maybe some activity, uh, something fun. So kind of starting and ending with something fun, or at least a bit of rest. That would be pretty typical, and then the final Saturday, travel back. Any questions about that? Okay. It goes by a lot faster than you might realize. So a few more pictures. Again, I think these are from the very first time I was there. The top left here, this is the inside the crater from the volcano. You can kind of hike around the back way. It's still a challenging hike, I've heard. I always go up the front way because I'm a crazy guy. But then so you can climb up. In the springtime, when it's their summer, their dry season, it is very hot, and the volcano is just black volcanic rock, and so it's just taking all the sunlight. It's pretty hot. This was a agriculture well that was being put in. I got to help with that the very first time I was there. They do big borehole wells for each community they work with. They kind of begin with a water system, so we'll get to see more about that. And just some typical landscape there in the dry season. Okay, so I'm gonna stop it just about here. So this week, and in fact, maybe in just a moment, I want to talk with anybody that's going to try to go. Okay, and you're welcome to try to go even if you don't end up going. Okay, we can take this week for sure to make the final decision. But if you're aiming to go, even if you wait till later in the week to buy your tickets because you're still not sure, let's get rolling on the things we have to do. Okay. And any questions or concerns? Like, are you anybody concerned about like malaria or anything? The doctors can advise you about malaria and stuff. I don't personally take malaria medicine when I go, but normally I've gone during the dry season. It's not huge down there, but it does occur down there, so it's yeah. So I'll let your doctors give you the medical advice, but happy to tell you what I've done. So the big things this week: A, confirmed with me that you're going. B, we have to have scans of our passport that are high quality scans, meaning have to be clear, legible, color, flat. Your passport has to be signed. Should be no reflections or fingers in the photo. Has to be like a real, pretty legit scan. Okay, they require that, and they require flight confirmations. And I have to give that to Amigos so they can give it to the government by the end of this week. I think they told me we are SOL any later than the end of this week, basically. Maybe it was September 1st, but I want to get that to them at the end of the week. We're also supposed to apply through LSU. That can wait a little bit. I think the deadline we said is the 1st. That's just getting the ball rolling on the LSU side. This one's a little more flexible. And they also told me that to pay the registration with Amigos, I can be a little bit flexible with that. You're going to pay the study abroad office, and then with that, I pay Amigos. That's how that's going to work. But that means I also need the final list. So I think that's all I've got for you right now. Any questions, concerns? All right, so I'm going to stop this here then.